to support the platform just in case anything like this happens again. You can do it by way of PayPal, Patreon, Cash App, and also by the Anchor. And you can also further support the platform by way of going to the Teespring store or the shoe store that is located in the comment section below. Republican House Majority Whip Tom Emmer said on Monday his CBDC Anti-Surveillance State Act has gained significant traction among lawmakers, including some that haven't stepped forward publicly. Introduced in February, the legislation would prohibit the Federal Reserve from issuing a central bank digital currency directly to Americans or using the technology to shape monetary policy. It would also make the U.S. central bank subject to greater oversight when studying or piloting a digital dollar. The bill initially had 9 co sponsors, but that number has since grown to include 14 other members of Congress, bringing the current total to 23. All of them are Republicans, but that just includes the politicians who have put their names on the legislation. CBDCs parallel digital assets like stablecoins, which are tokens pegged to the price of a sovereign currency like the US dollar. But instead of being managed by a private company, CBDCs are issued and maintained by their respective governments or central banks. While some view CBDCs as a natural evolution of cash that could foster greater financial inclusion, Emmer and others have criticized the technology as a tool for surveillance that could be prone to abuses of power. Those critical toward a CBDC, including Emmer, have raised privacy concerns, arguing it would allow the government to monitor transactions and spending habits, eroding privacy rights. The Fed's vice chair for supervision, Michael Barr, acknowledged privacy concerns in March, saying a CBDC should offer privacy that mirrors bank deposits. The Fed has said repeatedly that it will not issue a retail-facing CBDC without approval from Congress as well, which would be used by Americans in everyday purchases. Yet, Fed Chair Jerome Powell has signaled a CBDC for financial institutions is different. Emmer described the distinction between a retail and wholesale CBDC on Monday as word soup that the Fed and the Treasury and all these bureaucrats put out. Ultimately, he argued that a CBDC should adhere to ideals within the Web3 space, bearing a resemblance to stablecoins if at all possible.
While the Federal Reserve has made no decisions on whether to pursue or implement a central bank digital currency, or CBDC, we have been exploring the potential benefits and risks of CBDCs from a variety of angles, including through technological research and experimentation. Our key focus is on whether and how a CBDC could improve on an already safe and efficient U.S. domestic payments system. CBDC is generally defined as a digital liability of a central bank that is widely available to the general public. Today in the United States, Federal Reserve notes are the only type of central bank money available to the general public. Like existing forms of money, a CBDC would enable the general public to make digital payments. As a liability of the Federal Reserve, however, a CBDC would be the safest digital asset available to the general public, with no associated credit or liquidity risk. The Federal Reserve Board has issued a discussion paper that examines the pros and cons of a potential U.S. CBDC. As part of this process, we sought public feedback on a range of topics related to CBDC. The Federal Reserve is committed to hearing a wide range of voices on these topics.
So again, the main thing that was stated, right? They said CBDC is a generally defined as a digital liability of a central bank that is widely available to the general public. Today in the United States, Federal Reserve notes, i.e. physical currency, even though it's technically digital because it's not backed by anything, are the only type of central bank money available to the general public. Now, the most interesting thing about that is that something that I covered not too long ago stated something quite different. So let's go over what Forbes stated, right? The Federal Reserve plans to roll out its long anticipated faster payment system called FedNow in July. This will be the first government created platform to help your bank transfer money in real time, similar to what the private sector has already created through payment apps like Venmo and Cashapp that sends funds almost instantly but outside of bank accounts. FedNow has been years in the making. Its potential impact on the global banking industry with thousands of financial institutions able to access the system. has generated not only praise but also concern and confusion about what FedNow will actually do. So let's set the record straight, right? FedNow is the first United States government created and backed portal allowing banks to send and receive funds almost instantly. The Fed already has a payment portal, but it does not operate in real time, unlike Venmo, Cashapp, and other money transferring apps that allows users to instantly send money between app accounts, but to receive money in your bank account, whether from a check, direct deposit, or payment apps. You may have to wait a few business days or bide your time over holidays or weekends. All right, so you heard how a government official is okay with the CBDCs and how he is completely fine and dandy with it. You heard the potentialities that could come from them, which are negative, which means that you would have a group of people that would be able to oversee what it is that you are doing with every single cent, every single dollar that is yours that you are spending, right? And then you heard the explanation from the federal government, which again, that's a website that anybody can freely go and look directly at and peruse, right? And then I read to you what FedNow is, along with what it is that Forbes also stated about, you know, FedNow and the CBDCs, right? So let's see what something similar looks like on the blockchain, aka cryptocurrency. And this is taken directly from the Litecoin website. Your money, Litecoin or LTC, is decentralized money, free from censorship and open to all. Send low cost, private, secure, borderless payments to anyone, anytime, anywhere. Blockchain secured. The Litecoin blockchain is the largest global script based network operating with 100% uptime since 2011, securing and transacting billions of dollars of value. Decentralized finance. There's no approval needed to join the new age of money. Download your free wallet to join and invest in the future of finance. Evolving and immutable. Litecoin development pioneered technologies including Lightning for instant global settlement of funds and atomic swaps for cross blockchain trustless trading. So the reason that I'm putting all of this directly in front of you guys is to yet again inform people, to let people know, telling people to go back and do a little bit of history research and look at how it was, several years ago when the United States government and other governments around the world were trying to scare the public directly away from cryptocurrencies, right? Again, Litecoin stated that they've been doing this since 2011. Right, the government has been like, hey, we've been, this has been in the works for, years. We've been working very hard on this, and this is, the first, United States. Notice they couldn't say first in the world because it's not, because there were already systems in place before they started doing it. What the government, the United States government, decided to do was to copy what it is that the blockchain was doing. They don't necessarily want to use the blockchain, they want to use their own because they don't have control over the blockchain, right? For obvious reasons. So they decided to come up with their own version, their own variant, so that they could work with the central banks so that they can see and have control over, you know, what it is that is going on. So if anything is implemented by laws, like, hey, we're going to stop, transactions at this time. Now, because remember, they stated that they're going to have pretty much 100% uptime, right? The same as Litecoin, correct? The difference is that if something happens with the government, that's not going to affect the Litecoin and their blockchain and their atomic swaps and everything that it is that they're doing. They're going to have 100% uptime because they're completely separate from the United States government. If anything happens to the United States government, let's say, a banking collapse or whatever it is, right? Everybody's money is going to be frozen. You're not going to have an area to go to in order to access your money because everything, all of those things are going to be shut down. So that means that you're going to be at a loss. There is no possible way that the United States government can tell you that something is going to have a 100% uptime. We've seen too many times that we've depended on the government to supply people clean water, all for it to go down because of a storm, because of an electrical issue, or what have you. We've seen far too many times that we're supposed to have, in a sense, uptime on electricity, right? But here we go with storms, right? A power outage can happen because of a lightning strike, strong winds, or what have you, right? Technically, you're supposed to have, in a sense, 100% uptime when it comes to your internet, but we all see what happens with internet service providers. We're supposed to have that 100% uptime when it deals with cell phones, and we see completely what takes place with that. And we also see how the government is able to implement certain things, quote unquote, the emergency system directly on your device, which again is not actually your device if somebody else is able to have control over it and do what it is that they are wanting to do, such as the United States government, again, implementing certain quote unquote emergency systems, putting warnings directly on your phones, sending amber alerts. Again, these are things that you cannot opt out of. These are things that they are able to specifically do and push directly to your phone. So if they're able to do that, just think what they would be able to do if they implement such a system where they have a broad, type of look or hand over the American financial system where they can literally look at and peer into things that people are buying. And if we're going to deal with, in a sense, something similar to the blockchain, that means that they can allocate certain things, right? So that means that they can just allocate, okay, we're going to put everything groceries in this part of, a box in the blockchain, right? So we're going to look at what everybody is buying, right? So we're going to label armaments. We're going to, look at magazines. We're going to look at prescriptions. We're going to look at marijuana. We're going to look at clothing. We're going to look at housing. Like I said, and these are just things that I'm just throwing directly out there, but I promise you, these are things that they've more than likely already talked about. And this is, how dangerous this is. Because at the end of the day, like I always say, and I've been saying for years, who watches the watchman? If the United States government is watching you, then who is watching them? If they're watching us and what it is that we're buying, what it is that we're eating, and what it is that we indulge in, then who's watching the things that they're doing and indulging in? It seems to be a blind spot. It seems to me that there are all cameras pointed at us, but there are no cameras pointed at them.